What if I told you your portfolio could come with both passive income and good vibes for the planet and your soul? Let's talk about being green and gainful. You don't have to choose between profits and planet Earth. In fact, the best investing approach is one that fuels both. Meet Ezra, an eco-conscious, spreadsheet-wielding urban dweller from C, frustrated by mainstream finance's dark side. She cared about green, but going green always came at a cost, until she discovered sustainable investing. Today's episode is her journey, from doom-scrolling climate doom to building a diversified, ESG-aligned investment plan that doesn't just grow her money, it grows her values. We're talking low-carbon ETFs, green bonds, and even tiny real estate plays backing renewable energy projects. It's a story of balancing return with responsibility, heartbreak with hope, and proving that you can invest in the future without destroying it. The eco-anxiety spiral. See, Ezra had a ritual she never told anyone about. Each night before bed, she would doom-scroll climate news on her phone. Reports of polar ice caps melting, forest fires raging across continents, sea levels inching their way upward like uninvited guests at a house party. It was her version of a bedtime story, only instead of sweet dreams, she'd get existential dread with a side of insomnia. Her emotional support water bottle had a sticker that said, "There is no planet B," but she was starting to think there might not be a plan A either. One day, halfway through a documentary narrated by David Attenborough and despair, Ezra paused the video because she had a horrible realization. She was part of the problem, not in the "I throw my straws into the ocean" kind of way, but financially. Her money, her savings, her CPF investments, even her retirement fund were unknowingly funding companies that were actively making the planet worse. Coal, oil, deforestation. She felt like she was paying for her own climate anxiety. Cue full-on panic. She Googled things like "how to green your investment" and "ethical investing Singapore," and was immediately bombarded with a mix of financial jargon and influencer nonsense. It felt like trying to read the terms and conditions of the apocalypse. But deep down, something shifted. Ezra knew she couldn't unsee what she discovered. Her money had influence, silent, powerful, invisible influence. And if she could redirect it, even a little, it might not save the planet, but at least it would save her from feeling so powerless. That night, she made a choice, not to be perfect, not to be a climate saint, but to start small and smart. She wasn't going to throw her life into a compost bin. She was going to invest like a decent human being. Learning T, the language of ESG. The first thing Ezra learned was that the world of sustainable investing had its own language. ESG, environmental, social, and governance. 3 pillars. One confusing acronym. She dove in like it was a new K-drama series. ESG scores? Like a report card for companies. Funds with higher scores meant cleaner practices, better treatment of workers, and less bribery. Yes, that was a metric. Bribery. She learned about greenwashing, the corporate art of pretending to be eco-friendly while secretly doing the financial equivalent of setting a forest on fire. Ezra became a sleuth. She fact-checked fund portfolios like a detective reading suspect alibis. She discovered green bonds, literal investments that fund environmental projects, and ETFs that focused on clean energy, low carbon emissions, and sustainable agriculture. For the first time, finance started to feel, dare she say it, interesting? It wasn't about sacrificing returns. It was about redirecting them. Ezra realized her investing didn't have to be extractive. It could be generative, restorative, a vote cast for the kind of world she wanted to retire into. She followed ESG creators, read blogs with way too many pie charts, and even downloaded an app that rated companies by their climate impact. It was like Tinder for your portfolio. Swipe left on fossil fuels, swipe right on solar farms. And suddenly, she saw her CPF not just as retirement funds, but as future impact funds. Her investments were no longer just about her. They were a legacy, a quiet revolution in her bank account. Building a green portfolio blueprint. Ezra didn't have $1 million. She didn't even have 10,000 lying around. But she did have discipline, and more importantly, a spreadsheet addiction that bordered on problematic. Her green portfolio didn't look fancy. It looked practical. 60% in global ESG ETFs, diversified, passive, efficient. 20% in low-risk green bonds, boring but stable, like oat milk. 10% in clean energy REITs, solar panels, wind farms, and good vibes. 10% in micro-investments, sustainable agri-tech startups, community green funds, and one weird app that helped regenerate coral reefs. She triple-checked it wasn't a scam. It wasn't. She set up automated monthly contributions. Each payday, her money would slip quietly into these funds, like a sneaky ninja of positive impact. She called it her green machine, because every dollar had a job, and none of those jobs involved wrecking the planet. She used a color-coded dashboard. Green meant eco-aligned. Red meant, "What are you doing here, Exxon?" She made a rule: no red zones in her investments, ever. This wasn't just a money strategy. It was an identity shift. Ezra stopped calling herself a consumer and started calling herself an investor, a values-based investor. It made her feel 10 feet tall, finding purpose in passive income. The first time a dividend landed in her account from one of her ESG ETFs, Ezra laughed. It was 7/12, not exactly yacht money, but it felt different. She called it her Earth dividend, a tiny payout for doing the right thing, proof that you didn't have to choose between values and value. Every month, when she got those little payouts, she'd mark them in a notebook with a doodle of a tree. It was corny. It was cute. It was cathartic. Ezra used to see passive income as this big, unreachable thing, like you had to already be rich to earn money while sleeping. But now, she saw it differently. It wasn't about being rich. It was about being consistent, about aligning systems to support your future, not just your present. She started reinvesting those dividends, compounding the impact. She even set a milestone. When her green portfolio hits $10,000, she'd treat herself to a staycation at an eco-resort. Spoiler, she did. And yes, it had bamboo everything. It gave her a sense of agency. Every investment wasn't just a line item, it was a seed. And even if it grew slowly, it was growing in the right direction. And maybe most importantly, she felt proud. Not the braggy kind, the quiet, personal kind. The kind that says, "I'm doing something." And that something matters, when the world still sucks anyway. So, you're doing everything right. Your portfolio looks like a sustainability brochure. You've said no to shady investments. And yet, the headlines still scream climate chaos. The news is still sad. And the planet still looks like it needs therapy. Ezra hit that wall too. One morning, while sipping her almond milk latte and reviewing her ESG dashboard, she wondered, does any of this even matter? Because sometimes it feels like putting a biodegradable bandage on a broken system, like choosing paper straws on the Titanic. And that despair? It's real, but it's also a trap. Here's what Ezra realized. Changing the system isn't about one person saving the world. It's about millions of microshifts compounding into macro change. It's the slow, unsexy revolution happening in quiet clicks and tiny transfers. So she reframed her doubt. She wasn't doing this to fix everything. She was doing this to not be part of the problem. She was doing this to plant seeds she might not see bloom. That's not futility. That's legacy. Because impact investing isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. And Ezra? She was all in, latte in hand. The workplace awakening. Ezra's journey didn't stay personal for long, because you know what happens when someone becomes financially woke? They start talking about it, loudly, at lunch. One day, during a sleepy team meeting, Ezra casually mentioned moving her investments to green funds. Her coworkers blinked. "Wait, you can choose where your CPF goes?" She smiled. "Well, sort of, but even your supplemental funds can be green. Want me to show you?" That was the start of what HR now calls Ezra's ESG Hour. It became a thing. She gave mini lunch talks, shared starter fund lists, and even helped her boss review the company's default fund choices. The office snack table was now littered with ESG brochures, and someone ordered reusable mugs for the break room. Her financial awakening became a ripple, and then a wave. It wasn't activism with placards and protests. It was quiet, nerdy rebellion through payroll deductions and shared Google Sheets. And it worked. Because financial systems, they're not built for people who stay quiet. They change when people get informed, get loud, and start voting with their dollars, or at least their boring adult investment accounts. The personal green line. Of course, not everyone loved it. Ezra's aunt, for example, was not impressed. Why would you invest in something just because it's green? What about profit? It stung a little, but Ezra smiled and replied, "I am making profit, just not at the cost of forest." There's always going to be resistance when you draw a line, especially a green one. Friends who think you're too idealistic, family who think you're wasting potential, financial bros who roll their eyes when you mention sustainability. But Ezra stood firm, because once you see how money flows shape the world, you can't unsee it. She had redefined what enough looked like. She didn't need to max out returns at the expense of everything else. She set her own boundaries. No funds tied to deforestation, no investments in fossil fuels, no apologies. And slowly, those boundaries became her blueprint for her life, her goals, and her mental peace. Because money without values is just numbers. But money aligned with values? That's a compass. And Ezra was finally heading in a direction that felt like hers. Scaling impact without burnout. By year 2, Ezra was feeling pretty good. Her green portfolio was growing. Her coworkers were asking for advice, and she'd stopped doom scrolling before bed. But here's the plot twist. Even impact investing can burn you out. There's this pressure to be the perfect conscious investor, to read every fund disclosure, to know every ESG rating update, to optimize every dollar. And Ezra, being type A and extremely online, almost went too far. She started checking her investment app like it was TikTok. She subscribed to 4 different ESG newsletters. She even tried to calculate her portfolio's carbon offset while waiting for the bus. Until one day, she forgot to update her spreadsheet and felt guilty. That's when she knew it was time to chill. She took a step back. Automate what you can. Set a review day once a month. Trust the system you built. And most importantly, live your life. Because sustainable investing isn't supposed to replace joy. It's supposed to protect it. Ezra didn't stop caring. She just stopped micromanaging. And with that, peace came balance. She still got her Earth dividends, still showed up for ESG Hour, still shared tips. But now she did it from a place of power, not panic. So here we are. Ezra didn't win the Nobel Prize. She didn't invent a solar-powered blockchain. She didn't go viral for single-handedly dismantling the fossil fuel industry. What she did do was something far rarer. She aligned her money with her values. She stopped investing in chaos and started investing in clarity. And no, it didn't fix everything, but it changed her. And that changed everything. She learned that investing isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every dollar is a vote, every fund is a voice, and every passive investment has the power to shape an active future. And if you're still wondering if it's worth the effort, just imagine telling your future self you knew the planet was on fire and still chose profit over purpose. Yikes. Don't be that person. So here's your mission, Green Gladiator. Don't just save the world. Shift how your money moves in it. Start with one fund, one account, one habit. And if you're already doing that, high five. Now go drag your friends into it too. Your wealth isn't just power. It's a plot twist. Use it well. Ready to make your money mean something? Hit that subscribe button, and let's turn passive income into powerful impact. Be the financial friend and like and share to this video with your fellow green-friendly financial goblins.